Can you believe I made this beautiful scarf and it only cost me $1? Hi, I'm Janelle, owner of yarnnecklaces.com, and on this channel I like to make jewelry making tutorials and crochet tutorials and anything yarn related. So if that's something you're into, make sure you subscribe and ring the notification bell so that way you won't miss the next video. Today I'm going to show you how to crochet this ruffle ribbon scarf. Now this is made of Red Heart Boutique Ribbons yarn, and I found this at Dollar Tree, so it was only $1. Now not all Dollar Trees have this yarn. I've been to multiple Dollar Trees in my area and only one of them had it. So if you see it in your area, make sure you snatch it up. Ice Yarns also used to make this ribbon yarn and they called it Samba scarf yarn. Even though both of these yarns are discontinued, some sellers are still selling them on eBay. So I'll put a link in the description below so you can find them. I made a tutorial using this scarf yarn about almost 10 years ago. And at the time I didn't really know what I was doing. So I was basically just gathering up the yarn and crocheting it like that. So I feel like this one turned out way better. It looks more like a boa and it's like ruffly all the way around. Also, sometimes with this yarn, there'll be like a knot in the very middle of your skein where they connected two ends together. And I have a little trick in the video for you where you can cut that little knot out and then tie the little threads together so that way it kind of camouflages that knot so you don't see it. So now that we got all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. For this project, you're just going to need one skein of Red Heart Boutique Ribbons yarn. And we're going to be using these little openings here. So I'm using a K-size crochet hook, but it doesn't really matter what size you use, just something that's comfortable to hold in your hand. And we'll also need a scissors and a ruler if you want to measure it, how long you want to make your scarf, or you can just measure it around your neck as you go just to figure out how long you want it. Wait, before you get started, I just want to show you this little trick that'll save you some time at the end. So what you want to do before you get started is fold this over about 3 sections here, and then you can start your crocheting from here, and this will prevent you from having to finish off at the end. So this will already be like a finished edge. Some people like to wrap this around something before they start so that way it doesn't get all tangled. I'm going to take my chances and just start from here, and hopefully it doesn't get too tangled while I go. You want to take one of your ends, and then using your crochet hook, you're going to insert your crochet hook into that first opening here. You want to go in front to back, and then insert it in front to back on the next one. And then you're going to use this thread on the top and pull that thread through this opening here, kind of like a chain crochet. So then go to the next opening and then pull through again. And then the next one, pull through again. So when I made my scarf, I did a total of 5 chains. So that'll make it 5. You'll notice sometimes the yarn will get a little snagged like this, but don't worry about it. Once you get your scarf all crocheted up, it'll just blend in with all these little ruffles and you probably won't even see it. So no worries there. So we've done our 5 chains. We're going to do one more chain and turn our work. So turn this way. And you always want to have the ribbon in the back behind what you're making. So if you look closely, you can see the chains. That was the last one we did. And then that one, there's one here. So we're going to crochet into those chains and kind of the same way we would do a single crochet. So we're going to insert our hook and then we're going to pull up a loop. It's going to be that next little opening there. And then pull that through. And then we're going to go to the next section and pull that through the 2 loops. So it's sort of like a single crochet. You just want to make sure you're in the right space when you go. And then we'll go to our next chain we made and pull up a loop and pull this one through. Sometimes it's kind of hard to see where that next stitch you should insert your hook is. So if I get confused, I just insert my hook into what looks to be the next stitch, and then just make sure I do 5 back and forth. So it doesn't make too much of a difference. If you pull up the wrong thread, no one's gonna know because this is all ruffled. But you just want to be consistent when you go back and forth. So make sure you're doing 5 or however many you want. If you want a slightly wider scarf, you can do a few more. So I've got my 5 single crochets I just made. Then I'm going to chain 1 and turn it back around and start again on this row. It's going to look like it's probably not really getting any longer, but it will, so just be patient and keep going with it. So even now it's like really hard to see where that single crochet is, but if you kind of open it up like this, you can see it should be right here. And if you just get under at least just one of these threads, you'll be fine. So I think that was 4. So let me do my last single crochet. And especially on the ends, it's like really hard to see where in the world do I put my hook. So I'm just going to put it wherever and then pull up and put that through. And then I'm going to chain 1 and turn again and then keep going. So you can kind of see now we've got like the layer down here and then the layer right here. So it's starting to get a little bit longer. So just be patient with yourself. It's going to take a little time to get used to crocheting with this because it's not a normal type of yarn to work with. And just make sure like each step you do, you just use that next section. And then that'll make that little ruffle effect. I believe that was 3. And even right now, it's like really hard to tell. I think it's about right there. And I kind of went under 3 of those, which I'm not going to worry about. I'm just going to keep going with that. And this should be my last one. So you can kind of see it's like all bunched together there. So I'm just going to pull up something and just go with it. And then you do a chain 1. And then just keep going from there. And that's really all you do. You just go back and forth until you get to the length you want. And then you can trim it off. And I'll show you how to finish it off at the end. So making some progress. This is what I have so far. It looks really pretty. It's kind of like a little boa. Reminds me of one of my feather boas I had. And I did notice as I was crocheting, I got to a point where the yarn must have ended and they tied it together right here. So I'm going to show you a little trick that I discovered when I was using other scarf yarns. So I'm going to cut this and then I'm going to tie it together so I don't have this big glob of just like thread and stuff. So I'm going to cut it just on each side of that knot. And then what I want to have is a little bit of thread along here. So I'm going to cut this thing. I'm also going to cut to about that same spot along here. So So this is what I have so far. So basically I'm just getting 3 pieces so that I could tie that knot together. And let's try not to lose our place here. So I'm going to cut it to about there and also cut it right here. Then what I'm going to do is just line them up and tie that knot together, like knot each piece of thread. And if you need it a little bit longer, you can just cut into it a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and put a stitch marker on here so I can take my hook out. You want to tie it all the way to the ends down here, so that way it meets up good. Actually, I might need that a little bit longer. So I'm going to cut it just a little bit longer because that doesn't seem to be long enough to tie it. I'm going to cut it to that next section. Now we should have enough room to be able to tie it. We're going to tie the top 2 first. Just go all the way to where these 2 meet. And I'm just doing a regular knot here. And then just tie it over one more time just to make sure it's secure. And pull on it tight. And then you could trim those ends off. Then you want to tie the next one down. So let's line this up. So we're going to take these 2 and tie them together. And just to where they meet. And I want to trim this stuff off, so that's why it's not so fuzzy. You know what? I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to trim it before I knot it. Let's see if that works a little bit better. And just line those up there. Yeah, I think that would work better. So for the middle one, just trim these little fringy things off first and you'll have a much better result. But hopefully you won't have a knot in your yarn like me, so you don't have to do all this extra work. So that's how that worked out. Let me get these trimmed off here. That's what we have now. So that looks a lot better than this big glob right here. And then you won't see it quite as much when you're crocheting it. So let's go and get back to work. And I am going to crochet till I get to the end of this ball or skein of yarn. And then I can show you how long this ends up being if you just do 5 across. So I will see you back in a little bit. Now I'm finally to the end of my scarf and I'm ready to tie this off. I'm sure there's multiple ways you can do this, but I'm going to do it kind of the same way I just joined those 2 pieces of yarn together. So what I'm going to do is make this string a little bit longer and then kind of cut this and then tie them together. So let's see what we could do here. So I'm going to cut this little guy right here. Make this string longer. Try not to cut the string. Okay. And probably the next one too, just to make it a little bit longer. And then I'm going to cut this off right here. Now I can pull this through here. And I have this string that I could tie this together with, but I don't want all this mess because when you tie it together it gets kind of like clumpy. I'm just going to cut along the line here, just shy of that end thread that ties this all together. And then I'm just going to cut this off because I won't need it. So now we have 2 pieces. Where did that thing go? Here you are. So we have 2 pieces we could tie together. So I'm going to make sure it's even on there. Right there. And then I'm just going to tie it in a knot. Just using a normal knot, I'll probably tie it 3 times. And then I can just trim it close to the knot. And then for the beginning of it, I didn't start at the very end. I started right here. So I can just cut this part right here. Just make sure you don't cut into the part where you crocheted. So if you look at it like this, looks like I crocheted into that one. So I'm going to cut it right here so we don't have any issues. Just like that. It's a little snagged right there, so I'm just going to cut it just a little bit more. Cut it there. Then you can just tuck that in. So this ended up being a full skein of that Red Heart Boutique Ribbons yarn. And let's see how long it actually got to be. So it ended up measuring about 55 inches. So that's a good size scarf, I think. So you probably wouldn't want to make it too much wider or your scarf would be quite a bit shorter. So you know I used 5 stitches going back and forth. So that seems to be a good number. And I think it turned out nice and thick and fluffy. Not too thin, not too thick. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And let me know if you have any questions about this type of yarn, and I'll be happy to answer them as much as I can. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.